Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're looking at a cultural icon that didn't just show up on the silver screen, it basically exploded from it. We're talking, of course, about the Flapper, a figure that came to define the entire Roaring '20s.
So before the 1920s, the ideal woman was something called the Gibson girl. Think aristocratic, passive, and, literally trapped in corsets. But after the huge trauma of World War I and the big win for women's suffrage, a whole new generation was totally ready to rebel against all those old rules.
This new generation, they wanted to dance, drink, smoke, and talk openly about sex. They needed a new way to express all this, a whole new visual language, and they found it in the darkness of the movie palaces. You see, Hollywood didn't just capture the Flapper on film, it pretty much created the definitive blueprint for her.
Okay, to really get the Flapper, you have to first understand Clara Bow. She rose from a background of just brutal poverty to become the high priestess of the whole movement. She brought this unfiltered, almost manic energy to the screen that audiences had just never, ever seen before. Bow's on-screen persona basically became the Flapper uniform. That bobbed haircut, that was a really daring symbol of freedom from stuffy Victorian tradition, and the exaggerated lipstick, her signature Cupid's bow mouth, that turned into a nationwide makeup sensation. And then, of course, there was her energy. I mean, she was always moving, just a blur of dancing, flirting, and living life at absolute full speed. Her defining role came in a 1927 movie that was just called It, and that film gave a name to her unique charisma, this quality of just unforced magnetic sex appeal. What Bow proved was that a woman could be fun, she could be sexually confident, and still be the hero of her own story. But Clara Bow wasn't the only star shaping this new image. Another icon, Joan Crawford, offered a really different take on the Flapper. If Bow was the raw, untamed energy of the era, you could say Crawford was its sophisticated and ambitious side.
Crawford's big breakthrough was in 1928 with a film called Our Dancing Daughters. She traded Bow's working-class spunk for a more upper-class intensity. Her large eyes would just lock onto the camera with this fierce determination. She was also a champion Charleston dancer, and her style was all about satin gowns and sparkling jewelry, which made a more polished, high-society Flapper look really popular.
And those dance scenes were so much more than just entertainment. Her wild, energetic performances became the visual shorthand for an entire generation in revolt. It really captured the rebellious spirit of the Roaring '20s on film. The influence of stars like Bow and Crawford went way, way beyond the movie theater. Their on-screen personas directly shaped the lives of millions of young women, sparking a cultural revolution that was fueled by a whole new kind of consumerism. All of a sudden, movies weren't just stories anymore. They were basically instruction manuals. Hollywood had created this massive consumer culture, and the Flapper was its star product. By watching these films, young women learned exactly how to put on their makeup, which dresses to buy, and most importantly, how to reject their mother's expectations of a quiet domestic life for something much, much more exciting. But of course, the party couldn't last forever. At its peak in 1928, Flapper culture seemed totally unstoppable. Then the stock market crash of 1929 hit, and with the Great Depression that followed, that carefree, decadent lifestyle of the Flapper started to seem pretty irresponsible, almost overnight. Another really key factor here was a change in the medium itself, the arrival of sound films, what they called talkies. It totally shifted performance styles. This new technology just often struggled to capture the kind of raw, kinetic energy that had made silent stars like Clara Bow into these huge icons of a generation. So the Flapper era, it lasted less than a decade, a really brief, bright flash of rebellion and change. And yet, it was the first truly modern youth culture, and its impact on pop culture and feminism was absolutely seismic. It permanently took women out of the parlor and put them right onto the dance floor. Which leaves us with a final thought to think about. Through Clara Bow's sheer vitality and Joan Crawford's intensity, silent cinema created the icons for an entire generation. So, the question is, who are the on-screen figures doing that for youth culture today?